Everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for Bumblebee. Of course, there will be spoilers for this review, but that'll be like in the second half, so I'll let you guys know when I get to the spoiler section. This is, I believe, the sixth film. It's been a minute since I've seen the Transformers movie. I haven't watched since Dark of the Moon or whatever, or no. Dark Side of the Moon is the album. Dark of the Moon, that was the name of the movie. So I haven't seen it since the third movie. I believe this is the sixth because they started the new trilogy, and I'm pretty sure last night was only the fifth movie, so I think this is the sixth movie. Honestly, it hooked me. It got me in because a lot of people, of course, were saying it was good in general. But the main thing that got me being like a huge super nerd for Transformers, I kind of got back into it because I was like, oh, they have the G1 stuff, and of course, for me having my G1 Optimus shirt and various other nerdy Transformers shirts, I was like, man, I kind of want to see that. And I figured, I figured it was only going to be a little bit, and of course it is. It's not, naturally the movie is about this character Charlie and her relationship with Bumblebee, but I was like, man, I know that that's only gonna be like a minute or something like that, but it was just like it's G1 Transformers, and when I first saw it in the trailer, I was just like, holy crap, I want to see it. But that part is good. I definitely enjoyed that. The little bit that it shows up, because naturally it's 100% CG, so for one, that's probably like a giant chunk of the movie, just money wise, is like right in that portion. Even with it only being a few minutes, it's like 100% CG, so that probably cost them a little bit, especially considering it seemed like they put some effort into it. It wasn't like the other Transformers movie where it got a little lazy with some of the transformations. In that, there's a bit of effort in this movie. In that section where they're on Cybertron, you don't see it too much, where it's like the super detailed version because it's all CG, so they kind of do it from a distance where they transform. But man, it looks good. There's like one part, and it's the one in the trailer actually with Soundwave, where you actually see a little bit of transforming up close, but it was good. I love that portion. And fortunately for me, I did enjoy the rest of the film. I know, it's getting a lot of praise right now. And some people, I've watched a couple of reviews. Some people didn't like it. Some people did. Some people wondered, like, do I like this movie because the other ones have been so terrible, or is it just good? For me personally, like I said, I haven't even bothered to see the other ones, which is crazy. Like, I love Transformers. Michael Bay seems to be the only guy that can do this, where it's like he'll have Transformers and Ninja Turtles, which love both of those things like crazy. I haven't seen either of the Ninja Turtles movies, and I just stopped after 3 with the Transformers movies, and it was like, that's insane. Like, I freaking love these shows. I still watch the TV shows when they come on. For some of them, at least. I haven't watched the recent Transformers show in a minute, but I watched the current Ninja Turtles. I got to catch up on that, actually. But it's just like, man, it's crazy. 2 of my favorite franchises, and it's just like somehow he just made them meh for me. And it was like, I just don't want to see him that much. But this one, got me. And like I said, people said it was good. It had some emotional moments to it, which I certainly felt like it did. Nothing that where it was like I felt like I was about to tear up, but definitely some emotional stuff. It didn't get me like I saw Spider-Man as the last movie I saw before this. That had some moments where I was legitimately like tearing up, and this was like, okay, yeah, that's definitely sad and stuff like that. But it was just like it didn't hit me nearly as hard. So they had those emotional moments, and it was in there, and it was entertaining. Bumblebee was good. I thought Bumblebee was cool. Carrying the movie, and he's kind of the big star of the other Transformers film, because he's the one who's always attached to whoever the human character is, whether it's Sam or the other characters that I don't actually even know from the newer trilogy. He's the one that's always ending up being attached to those characters, even though I remember when they started the new trilogy, Optimus was the one that they found first. But, Bumblebee does his thing. He gets in there, and he's kind of the conduit. So Bumblebee gets his own movie, and I thought they did a good job with it. A lot of people are saying it is E.T. or it's Iron Man. Or not Iron Man, Iron Giant, sorry. Been a minute since I've seen E.T., and I've never seen Iron Giant, admittedly. But I was like, yeah, just from what I've heard of those films and, what I remember of E.T., it's like, yeah, it's, a girl and a robot. It's that sort of thing. The government comes in because it's this crazy alien thing. So it's that. It is that. And for me, I was fine with it. And it was just like kind of, it was above average for me. I was going to say it's kind of average, but I thought it was a bit above average. Nothing super crazy. Like my friend, she asked me like if I had to give it, like a number. I was like, I'd give it a 7. I was like, yeah, I would just give it a 7. And I thought it was good. And, I was fine seeing it in the theaters. I was like, I don't feel like I wasted my money. I laughed. I thought it was entertaining watching Bumblebee. Like there's portions where he's, very childlike, and they have this sort of innocence, and it kind of works in with the story actually, where it's not just like, why does this random thing happen? I'll talk about that in the spoilers, because I didn't think about it until I saw some other reviews, and I was like, oh, I forgot about this specific thing, and that's why that makes sense. So just pay attention. I guess that's all I can really say, because it does make sense why he starts to act a certain way. Because it seemed weird when I was watching. I was like, why is he like this? And then I had to watch other reviews to remember, like, oh, that specific thing happened. And so it kind of makes sense why there's a bit of a personality change. So I enjoyed it. Got some decent action. It wasn't a ton. You could see stuff. That's a big thing. Everyone's not like grayscale silver transforming all over the place. So that was really nice. It was like, oh, cool. And it's very tight knit as well. Like, it's not a ton of Transformers fighting, except for the portion where they're actually on Cybertron. Other than that, it's literally Bumblebee and one other Transformer, and that's it. Like, at a time at least, because there are other Transformers that show up, but it's never like a bunch of Transformers, clashing together, and it looks super crazy. And of course, with Bumblebee being, of course, bright yellow, it's easy to, contrast him against the ones that show up in the movie, which are particularly the ones in the trailer, whose names I totally can't remember, but the blue one and the red one that show up in the trailer, those are like the main bads of the film. And it's good. It's like, okay, you can see the color scheme there. They aren't very bright, but it's like, you got dark blue, dark red, and then you got Bumblebee with the yellow, and it's like, all right, when they actually fight, it's easy to distinguish them. They have the colors across them, even in their, robot forms. And it's like, that's good. That's really nice. It's not just, like I said, a bunch of gray, even when they're transformed. It's not Megatron, which is like the most annoying thing. Megatron and Starscream were like my least favorite designs. Actually, no, Soundwave, is my 100% least favorite design in all of the Transformers movies, because if you've seen this one, or if you know anything about Soundwave, he's literally made as a cassette deck, and which obviously is super duper outdated, but it at least looked super cool. He's my favorite one, honestly, and design wise, it's like he just turned into a cassette deck, and it's just like, but he looks so sweet. And then in the movies, he's a giant satellite. I was like, well, that looks dumb. Ravage is just a silver panther, and I was like, I mean, that could have been worse, but it was like that, little stuff like that. Rumble was a little, that was like their first reference to Soundwave with Rumble in the very first movie, where he turns into like a little boombox. Not the coolest, interesting design, because of the weird like 2-dimensional thing you can do, where you got like super thin, like a line. I thought that was cool, but it was like, that looks nothing. If a huge nerd like me was like, that's just weird that they changed it that much. And then you get to see the G1 stuff, and it looks cool. Like I said, it's not a giant portion of the film, but it's definitely awesome. If you're a big G1 fan like myself, I was like, I love this. I want the whole movie to be like this. That won't happen, I'm sure, for a super long time, if ever, because that would be expensive for them to do a full 3D CG movie. But I would love it. I mean, we have if you've never played the Cybertron games, they're on PS3, and I think they remastered them for PS4. Play those, because they're freaking amazing, and that is, like, it's pretty much what I want to see on the big screen, and if we could ever get that someday, that would be amazing. But that'll probably take a super long time. We'll see what they do with whatever the next Transformers movie is going to end up being, and what they're going to do with this weird timeline and stuff, because I know that in the last one, they talked about how basically Bumblebee was helping fight the Nazis and stuff, but in this movie, he shows up in the 80s. So I was like, all right, well, they kind of retconned that, so they're like kind of rebooting it, kind of not rebooting it, because they kind of skip over the fact that obviously he was there way after the whole Nazi thing. But then in certain parts of the movie, it's like they make references to where it's like, oh, this is how they did this in the first movie, or this is what happens here, and this is what happens there. So they have certain references where it's like, this connects to the movies, and then it's like, but he showed up in the 80s, and that totally kills all the stuff they had about like Transformers being on Earth for a super long time and stuff like that, which technically was introduced like in the second movie, actually. So some stuff, kind of gets retconned there, but all in all, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought it had, some decent emotional elements to it. I thought it had some funny moments. The action was entertaining, even though it doesn't really show up a lot. It's legitimately like beginning, middle, end. There's like 3 action set pieces, or it's at least fighting. Like, there's some chase sequence stuff going on, but as far as like, Transformers hitting each other and stuff, it's like 1, 2, 3, and then that's pretty much it. And it's the normal stuff you see through the other movies, where they go back and forth with the government. Like, we're working with the Transformers, now the Transformers are enemies. I still don't know the story behind that in the 4th movie, but I still think that's the dumbest thing ever. It's like, they were working with them, and then suddenly it was just like, we're outlawing, all Transformers. It was real dumb stuff. That just didn't even make sense, and I didn't even bother watching the movie. But, back and forth with the government stuff. This is where they first show up, so government, bad, and, ET element, like, this thing came from outer space, we got to destroy it. So generic stuff, but all in all, I was okay with it. I didn't think I wasted my money or anything like that. I went to see it. I mean, that says a lot. The fact that even the trailers had me interested enough, and other people did say it was good enough. and entertaining enough to go see. So I was like, all right, I'm at least check this out. It's not like Bumblebee's my favorite. He never has been or anything like that, but it was fine. I thought it was cool. I do love the fact that he was so small in this, because I think he's even smaller in this than he is in the other movies, and I like that because Bumblebee is like super super small. He's that's like his whole thing is that he's really small compared to everybody else. So I kind of love that. Where I was like, I felt like this really captured the scale of how small he is, because I thought even in the original Transformers he was really big, and that's it. In this movie, I think they capture it well, where he's legitimately only like twice the size of this woman, or like, maybe like 2.5 times the size. Like, he's really not that much bigger than people. Like, he's not even as tall as buildings in most cases. So I was like, I feel like they captured that really well in this movie compared to the other ones where I'm like, he seems really tall, to me at least, being the nerd that I am for Transformers. I was like, oh, I thought he was super tall, but I really enjoyed it. Tons of references, tons of characters show up with the G1 portion, of course, but this will be the end of my spoiler-free segment. Like I said, I think it was a good movie. Highly recommend you guys. Well, shouldn't say highly recommend. If you bothered to watch the other Transformers, you kind of owe it to yourself at this point to at least see a good one. Like I said, I haven't seen the other ones, so I can't really speak on it. I just know what other people have said, except for just the story elements that are just all dumb. Aside from those specific story elements that I know, I haven't actually seen the movie and seen the action and all that stuff play out, but I'd say it was good. I'd say check it out. You'll get your references to the other movies. You'll get some slight retconning there, or some hard retconning technically, with them basically saying all that stuff from the last movie doesn't exist, like the Underground Railroad and all the craziness there. It technically doesn't exist anymore. So hard retconning, some not so hard retconning, stuff like that. I say go see it. You'll probably enjoy it. But getting into spoilers, so the official spoiler segment for the movie. Obviously, I got to start with the G1 portion because that's like the best thing ever. Naturally, it occurs in the very beginning of the movie. I was like, it's either going to be the beginning or it's going to be a flashback that's like 2 minutes long, and it's when Bumblebee like reveals the story, or however that plays out. But it's in the very beginning of the movie, and it was super cool. I really loved it. I was like, man, this looks so good. They had all this stuff, like even in the trailer I noticed stuff, because I actually watched the G1 Transformers cartoon, so there's stuff that they do in there, like when the like Starscream and Skywarp and Thundercracker and they're flying and stuff, they turn into the actual ships that they do in the original cartoon, where they have like the 3 points. And I was like, that's so freaking cool. Like, that looks awesome. And you see a bunch of Transformers in it. Obviously, you have Optimus, and naturally you have Bumblebee, but you get to see Evac. I want to say Sideswipe was in there. I always forget the names of like some of the main characters, but we get RC is in there. Sadly, Cliffjumper dies in the movie. I was like, oh, that sucks. But I heard that was actually a reference to like the first episode of Transformers Prime, and it's been forever since I saw that. So I was like, oh yeah, he did get killed in that first episode. Played by The Rock, by the way. The Rock did play Cliffjumper in Transformers Prime. You can go randomly look that up. But yeah, I was like, oh, Cliffjumper's in it, and he gets split in half, and that made me sad. Like, in the beginning of this, I was like, I kind of feel like I'm watching the old Transformers cartoon movie where they're just killing all my favorite characters off, but we don't technically see anyone die except for Cliffjumper and the one dude who I swear that Transformer showed up like twice. Like, the green and yellow one, I swear, even in the original cartoon, I'm like, I feel like he was only in like 4 episodes. I don't remember his name like at all, but we see some others. I didn't see Perceptor. I kind of wanted to see Perceptor because I was like, Perceptor was just interesting color wise, and just with the bright red and bright blue, and I was like, I kind of want to see Perceptor fighting, because Perceptor doesn't really fight, but we don't see Perceptor, at least not that I noticed. But anyway, we get RC, we get like I said, I believe Evac and Sideswipe. As far as the Decepticons, we pretty much get everyone except for Megatron, and I think the whole point of that was they couldn't have Megatron there because he's technically on Earth already, because he crashed like centuries ago. But we get to see everyone. We get to see Soundwave, who's my favorite. We get to see Ravage shoot out. I would have loved it. They did Rumble, and they did the reference to the old movie where he says it's time to crumble before Rumble. But we get Ravage, we get Soundwave, we get Shockwave, we get Starscream, I believe, was in there. He didn't speak, but I think Starscream was in the background with Thundercracker. And I don't think Skywarp was in there, because that's like another weird thing where Skywarp turned to the good side or whatever, and that's like in the second movie as well. But we get to see a bunch of them, and I thought that was super cool. I was like, I love this. I love getting to see Cybertron. Great action. Optimus was super cool, and he's like flipping and shooting everybody when they do like the second version of the flashback. And he's just flipping and shooting a bunch of random, non sequitur Decepticons. And I was like, this is super sweet. And he was just like doing all sorts of twists and flips, and was just like shooting everybody. Like, he dives off and then he lands on top of a flyer and blows that one up. So that was awesome. Love that whole segment. So that was like super fun. Bumblebee in the very beginning I thought was super cool when he's fighting and stuff. Crash lands next to John Cena, and that's when John Cena decides I hate robots, even though they didn't really bother to try to figure out normal government thing. It was like misunderstanding that carries through the whole movie to the very end. It's just like, okay, whatever. But they go through. Bumblebee ends up fighting whoever that was he fought. I'm pretty sure that is an actual Decepticon. I'm pretty sure it's a popular one. Anyone that spoke was popular in some way, shape, or form at some point in the Transformers universe. But I can't remember the one that he fought. And it was like, it's the one that kind of looked like Starscream, but it wasn't Starscream. He had a different color scheme. And I was like, I guess that makes sense that they wouldn't make it Starscream, because he would have been on Earth and then he would have had to have come back. And so it would have been another weird thing story-wise. So I was like, okay, it makes sense that it wasn't Starscream because he killed the guy. But interesting portion. I really love that. And it was like, we actually get to hear Bumblebee talk. And I don't know if it's the same voice actor from the last one, because I know he speaks at the end of the last movie as well. So I don't know if it's the same voice actor or anything like that. But I thought it was kind of cool. And, we show how Bumblebee lost his voice. And he was like, oh, you won't speak, so let's make it permanent. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of a really dark but cool way to do it. And then, of course, Bumblebee loses his memory and stuff. And then we get, like, the first question, which is, like, really, honestly, the biggest question I have of the entire movie, which is, how long was he knocked out? And how long did it take him to go from that lake that he... Legitimately, a giant robot passed out at a lake, and he wasn't that far. Like, he was scanning stuff from across the lake, but I'm like, that's a giant robot, and he wasn't that far. And the whole point of this crazy situation is that you have this alien robot creature that came down from space. They're going to search for it. Even though John Cena was like kind of knocked out and he had to crawl out of the truck, I'm sure they would have been like giant search party. But he passes out, and then it cuts to Charlie, and it's like her story, and then eventually she finds Bumblebee. And all I was thinking after I saw the movie was like, how long was he knocked out? And all that stuff. Like, there's some weird stuff in between him scanning the beetle and then getting to where he was, where she found him. And I was like, I feel like there's a something should have been there. It was just like a weird thing where I was like, you just kind of have to let it go. But I was like, it's super weird, because it's not like he made it and he passed out right as he transformed. He passed out like in the water, like, I'm tired, and he dropped in the water, and the last thing he did was scan the car. So I don't know if he transformed after he passed out or something, and someone's like, oh, there's a car that works, and they drove him. But that wouldn't make any sense, because when Charlie starts the car up, that's what first sends the signal out. So I was like, I just don't understand what happened in between there. Like, he passed out, but then somehow he woke up, but the signal never went off. Weird stuff. Like, it was a really weird thing to me to like kind of think about. But when I was watching it, I didn't think much of it. It wasn't until like after I saw the movie where I was like, that didn't make sense. But after that, we have Charlie. She finds Bumblebee, starts him up. He transforms. He's lost his memory and stuff like that. So he freaks out. They end up bonding. Whole movie plays out. The other the evil Decepticons come in. They do their thing, and they trick the one scientist where it's like, we can learn this and that. They gave us the internet. That's how they found Megatron, because they basically gave them the ability to track Transformer signals. So that's how they find Megatron in the original film. They gave us the internet because it's like a connected web and all that stuff. So we got the internet from Transformers, specifically the Decepticons. I did like the Decepticons in this. I thought they were cool because they had like the different personalities where the female Transformer, she was the one who was more precise, and the male Transformer, he was like, I kind of just want to, let's just get rid of him. And he was the weird way that they did it, where he would kill people by having like this seismic gun, and it would just they would just burst into goo. I was like, that's super unique, super messed up as well. But I kind of enjoyed seeing it. I was like, that's a really weird way to kill someone off, but it was like, that's super unique. And they just go boom, and they just clear ooze, not color, just not like they burst into blood or anything. It was just like they legitimately just go, and they're just ooze. And I was like, that's a clean way to do a really crazy death. So I enjoyed that. Action at the end with Bumblebee I thought was pretty cool, and he like destroys the blue one because he wraps the chain around him when he transforms, and then he just pulls him. And I thought his arm was gonna come off. I didn't think it would like rip through his whole body and he blew up, but I was like, oh, okay, that was cool. But I thought it was just gonna take like one of his arms off because he tightened it. I didn't think he would just. It was almost like a laser chain, and he just went, and he just blew up. So I was like, that was a little weird, but I thought it was super cool still. So I was fine with it. But enjoyed the film, liked the ending. They go off, and Charlie's like, well, I can't go with you. You got people that need you. You got to basically fight this battle. Turns into the Camaro, going into the reference for the first film. And he takes off and he meets up with Optimus, which I thought was super cool. The Optimus had the trailer. It was super old school Optimus, and he had like the giant trailer, which I just thought that was really cool. It was like they had the trailer before. I think it was in the third movie, and there was like some extra like weapons and stuff for him to use. But I was like, that's just super cool. Like he had the old school trailer and everything. So I like that. And the movie kind of just ends, and I was like, all right. So they're going into. It's still in the 80s, so they're probably gonna do some other stuff. I don't know how they're gonna do this whole retconning situation. But all in all, I thought it was fun. It would be interesting to see what they decide to do going forward, and with them not making movies in between Bumblebee and the original film, which, if I remember right, takes place in like 2005 or whatever. There's elements there, and it's like, oh, well, what was Bumblebee doing? Why did he go into hiding? And then, of course, the fact that Bumblebee showed up also retconned that. I think in the first movie, that was when they first come to Earth and stuff like that. So then that was also retconned in the very next movie. And then there was retcon, things, they just kept adding stuff like, yeah, they showed up in the first movie, but they were here the whole time, including Bumblebee. That's why he was on Earth. And he was there with the Nazis. And now he's not there with the Nazis because he just showed up in the 80s. So all that extra crap. But all in all, entertaining film. Love the G1 stuff. Want way, way more of it because I love G1 Transformers. But it'll take some time, I'm sure, for that. But really enjoyed it. Definitely, of course, want to know what you guys thought about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. What do you want to see from the franchise going forward? Because, of course, they're going to make more. I heard that at the end of the last one, I know Optimus basically leaves Earth, and it's like, oh crap, are we gonna go to Cybertron? That's probably why they did Bumblebee. Was like, yeah, we'll do that when we got more money, because it's gonna be all CG if they go to Cybertron. So we'll see what happens there. If they do that, I might catch up on the last two movies just to see the full story. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where they go with it. There's so much they can't do, sadly, because of how they've made the other movies, unless they do a full-on reboot, because they have all the weird stuff where it's like, okay, well, Soundwave was here, and then he turns into a satellite, and all this, all these other things about their designs and all that stuff. They have to take that into account story-wise as well, so we'll see where it all goes, ultimately, but this is at least a good new start, I guess, or whatever they're going to do with this possibility, but like I said, definitely want to know what you guys thought about it, so please put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.